Welcome to Unwind Podcast. We're your hosts,
Maritza
and Melinda.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode. We're going to have Melinda kick off the title of this one.
All right, so this month, there is a lot going on.
Yes.
There's a lot of awareness. So this one is very near and dear to us. For particular reasons, but October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month as well. So it's not only just breast cancer.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's infant loss and pregnancy and infant loss.
Yes.
So I know that
a lot of women don't talk about it.
Yes.
I feel like they kind of see it like a norm, right? If you have a miscarriage or something like that, it's not a norm. You know, because I feel like a lot of like doctors make it seem normal, where they're like, oh, you know, there's like in a Hispanic culture, right? They're like, oh, don't say anything until after 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? Because they think that it's bad luck that you'll have a miscarriage. That is not true, right? A miscarriage actually happens because of your body sometimes. I will share my story this episode. So I already had Rosa and Brianna. And then I had gotten married with my husband now. And we were excited, like, you know, to have another baby. I was like, sure, let's do it. Let's add another one to the, you know, to the mix.
Bunch.
Yeah. I remember getting excited and being pregnant, and the way I shared it with him was I put it in a little gift bag for him to look, and he was like, wait, are you kidding me? I was like, no, like, I'm pregnant, like, wow, you know? And I always knew when I was pregnant because my chest would hurt.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, geez, yep, you know? But with this one, it was different. Like, I felt like, I know this is going to sound, like, weird, but I was like, I think that was my boy. Because with the girls, I would get, like, it was salt cravings, like, to eat salty foods. And with this pregnancy, I wanted sweet. And my pouch was actually growing faster.
Okay.
So for the girls, I never got a belly, like, until, like, I don't know, like 8 months.
At the tail end.
Yeah, you know? And so I was excited. The family was excited. And this was when we had Hurricane Sandy. So we're talking, like, a lot of years back. I remember all of a sudden, I think I was coaching, I was out and about, and I started like staining, like blood was coming out of me, and I called him. We rushed to the hospital and they checked me. They couldn't find the heartbeat. They kind of like came in the room and they were like, we're so sorry, but you're in the process of having a miscarriage. So I remember I felt like it was a dream.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was like, this can't be true. Like, I had 2 babies. Like, why? How? This is impossible. Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, you know, I literally, just to go through the motions with you guys, I am Christian, but at one moment, I literally asked God, like, why would you do this to me?
Yeah.
Like, you allowed me to have kids with somebody else. This is my husband. Like, how would you allow, like, for me to have a miscarriage? So there was anger, you know, and I think that in the flesh, you do feel the anger, right?
Yeah.
Because you're kind of like, you're expecting this baby. You're excited for this baby. And I just remember us getting discharged, and it was a disconnect too, like for me and my husband, because I think in one point, which is, you know, everyone goes through their emotions their own ways, but I think in one point, he was kind of blaming me. Yeah,
wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it was like, he kind of thought it was like, because I was coaching, that I caused the miscarriage.
Okay, yeah. That's what I was going to say also. I think that for men, possibly, right? Or even women, right? The Hispanic community.
Yep.
Let's go there. There's a lack of knowledge, and also because so many women do not talk about it. I think now more people talk about it more than before.
Yeah.
Obviously, because we're in a world where social media and everything, but there's not enough knowledge.
Yeah.
For men and for the Hispanic community, or that, you know, they'll blame you, like, tú no puedes hacer desarreglo, tú no puedes hacer, you can't do a lot of things.
Yeah. And
but
it makes
that's
you feel
not
like
it.
crap. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, like, you're already grieving, and then for somebody to try to blame you, you even feel worse. And, like, to top it off, like, I was so broken, and I felt like I wasn't getting support, you know what I mean? Because he kind of was blaming me, and it was like he almost got cold on me, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, it was Hurricane Sandy, so we lost power in our house. We didn't have anything here, so we had to go to my parents' house. And so he was still working. There was no school because of the storm. And I just remember I went for a run. right? That's my way. That's my therapy. Like, it's running. And I just remember saying to myself, well, you know what? If I'm having the miscarriage, then I'm just going to run it out. And I did. And I think that made it worse, to be honest with you, because then I ended up like bleeding to an extent that I was changing my pads like every 20 minutes. So it ended up me being actually rushed to the hospital. I ended up having to have the DNC done because I was like almost like hemorrhaging out. And I went through this with my aunt in the hospital and one of my very good friends that came to the hospital because he didn't even show up. And I was broken, right? I'll share that with you guys. Like, I felt broken. I felt angry. I felt lost. I remember when I came out of it, like, they showed me, right? Because they allow you to see it. And I just was like so crushed by it because, again, right? I didn't understand the why, right? And I think that's where God kind of worked with me. Like, you don't need to understand the why behind it.
Yeah.
But it was an emotional roller coaster. And I remember like pleading to God, like, please, like, allow for me to get pregnant again. And you know, I think it was like 6 months after I went to a retreat, and I just remember it was a women's retreat, and the woman was praying and all this stuff, and I went up for prayer, and I told her what happened to me, and I said to her, like, you know, I just had a miscarriage, and I'm just so broken by it. And she put her hands on my stomach, and she started like praying over me and declaring like any bondage or anything within me to be broken. And I kid you not, I felt like a squiggly like worm or something weird in my stomach. And I think like 2 weeks later is when we found out like I was pregnant again.
Wow.
And you know, and I was very cautious with that pregnancy because I think like when you go through that, then when you get pregnant again, you're kind of like, okay, like, let me take it easy, because they do instilling that in your mind. Like, these people, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when people start blaming you, then you're like, well, was it me? But I just remember the doctor, like, I spoke to my OBGYN because I was like so broken by it. I spoke to my OBGYN, and the OBGYN, I remember she looked at me, she's like, no, it's not your fault. Like, you can't, it's a
chemical thing.
Yeah, she's like, it's a gene. It's something that happens that causes it to not be like a baby that can actually flourish. Like, that's your body kind of letting it go because you know, something worse could happen.
Yeah.
And then that's when I was like, kind of okay. And I was like, what about this baby? She's like, no, this pregnancy is good. Like, the baby's good. The heart rate's good. Like, I had complications with Mia Bella. Like, she ended up having to come out, like, I think it was 3 weeks before her due date.
Okay.
But that was because of my spine.
Okay.
Like, she was literally making me paralyzed. But you know, like I said, like, it's tough, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's harder for the moms out there that actually had to give birth to stillbirths. I do know of somebody.
1 in 160 pregnancies will end in stillbirth.
Mm-hmm. And that is heart-wrenching, right? Because you're feeling the baby, and then you have to give birth. Like, it's a full-blown birth. And then the baby is not alive. It's stillbirth. And that is, I know a few people actually that have gone through that, and my heart literally goes out to them because I couldn't even imagine that feeling. I know that many of those women that I'm talking about, they actually ended up having other babies, but they never forget about the baby that they had to give birth to, because at the end of the day, that's still your baby.
Yeah.
You know, the baby's in for them. You know, the baby's in heaven. They say that's their guardian angel. They'll teach their children that, hey, you have an older brother or you have an older sister.
Yeah.
You know, but
at that rate, you already know.
Yeah.
Everything you've went through, you've carried probably full term.
Mm-hmm.
And that's devastating. That's difficult. You know, I haven't, thank God, because I don't know, but I know many women who have experienced, obviously, Maritza. I've had friends, and I have somebody very close to me who was going to be in the podcast with us, but I still won't share her name, but I'll share the information that way. She did want, you know, for people to be aware, but, you know, so she was going through a miscarriage, and we went to the hospital. They said, okay, go back home, you're having a miscarriage. And I stayed with her because at this time I didn't have Mia Bella, and so I was able to stay with her and take care of her, because it was a tough one. It was, she was having a miscarriage, but it wasn't like, you know, some people are spotting or whatever. No, this was something different. It was and so I can't remember if I was home. I think her son called me and like had to call 911. She was on the floor. She was passing out. We get to the hospital. I take her son to his grandmother's or whatever. I'm running like all the errands for her, trying to take care of, like, you know, her little one while she's in the hospital by herself. Before I get there, they had called cold blue.
Oh, she's losing that much blood?
Yep. So, not even that. So, we get upstairs to the room. They admit her now because it is a more serious situation at this point, right? Supposedly she's fine. She's had her blood transfusion, I believe. No, she didn't have it at this time. She gets up. She needs to use the bathroom. They told her that she was fine, but they were going to keep her for observation. She gets up. I'm helping her to the bathroom. She goes, Melinda, and she reaches out to me, and her face and everything that I saw, traumatizing. And she fell in my arms, and I started screaming for help because now, like, obviously dead weight is way heavier. Like, she's like, you know, passed out. And when they then test, and she lost way too much blood. And so they had to give her a blood transfusion. She is fine. She has been able to have another child after this. But it's just, what she wanted is people, like, be your advocate as well. Like, you know, we said that in other episodes probably, but this is, you know, normal. If it's not normal, if you see something that's off, like, you know, this was not a usual miscarriage. This was different. It was devastating for her. It was devastating for me to witness my loved one go through this and have to take care of her and have to, you know, help her with, she couldn't do the things that she needed for her younger kid that was home, you know. She didn't have someone by her side, you know, so it's very difficult. I've known women that had been trying for 10 years and they hadn't been able to, yet everybody always reminds them and tells them, when's the other one coming? Or when are you having another one? Not knowing that that person went through 2, 3, 4, 5 miscarriages. It's just like everybody is different. And because they are suffering, or people who have the audacity to ask knowing you've had the miscarriage. That's even worse.
And it does take a time for healing, right? Because you have to, well, first they tell you you can't try for 6 months. Like it's 3 months that you can't really like try. And then after that, you can get pregnant within the 6-month window. But it is traumatizing. Like your body goes through something, you just feel different. Like for me, when they did the NC, I think they cut me and they had to put stitches. Like it was just bad. Like I wish we would have had her on the episode, because I feel like maybe her story and my story, because like I said, right, I was changing a pad like every 20 minutes because it was just rushing out of me. Like I didn't know what was going on. Like it was, and good thing that she had you. Like, you know what I mean? Like my mom stayed with my girls, so she couldn't take me. I drove myself to the hospital. And I was just like, you know, and it's one of those things, like I say, support systems. Support systems are key in anything you guys go through, especially this kind of situation, because it's emotional. It's draining. It is, your body releases so much hormones at once. You feel weak, right? Because you are losing blood. And then mentally you just feel attacked. Like just
absolutely.
drained.
I know that the moment I found out I was pregnant with Mia Bella, my first reaction was excitement for something, and for and not knowing what what the heck I was gonna do, not knowing the everything after it. Where obviously, it wasn't expected, it wasn't planned. But it was God's plan.
Yes.
And so that enough gave me excitement and joy and happiness. And I can't imagine someone feeling that excitement and then losing.
Yep. It's a tough one. And then you know what's sometimes it's hard, right? So sometimes people want to say the right thing, but they don't know how to.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think what we need is just you being there.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to say anything. Just be there, do the laundry, wash, do the dishes, just cook a meal, bring a meal, right? Because for a while, you just don't have that motivation to want to do anything. Yeah. And it's hard when you're already a mom that you have to, right? Because you have, like, little kids looking at you, right? So, like, my kids had no idea what happened.
Yeah.
And I had to sit with them and just say, like, well, the baby that mama had in her belly is now an angel for us in heaven. And they just kind of looked at me and they were like, so no more baby? And I was like, no more baby. So when I got pregnant with Mia Bella, they were just kind of like, is this baby going to go to heaven too? And I was like, no.
And
like,
the trauma for second time moms, right? For the second time around, and then your kid knowing,
it's tough. It's tough. Like, I just remember they kept on looking at me like, are you okay? Do you feel anything?
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, I'm fine. I feel good. Like, I felt like once I passed the date like that, you know what I mean? Because I was already almost 15 weeks.
But it's funny because a lot of time they tell you, oh, you shouldn't say anything after this period. But for so long, right, we never knew why people would say that. Yeah. Right? Because women didn't talk about this.
Yeah.
And now it makes sense because after that, then there's less of a chance of you having a miscarriage.
Yeah. They say by 8 weeks.
So
usually.
I'm going to do quick little facts, right? 1 in 4 women will lose a baby during pregnancy, delivery, or infancy. I think I did that one already. There is no foot too small that cannot leave an imprint. So no matter, again, what we were saying, no matter how small this baby is, it's that moment that you find out that you have a baby in your belly, like something growing. It's precious. It's a loss.
The moment you hear that heartbeat.
Yeah, but sometimes even before that, because I didn't hear a heartbeat till my second appointment.
Oh, wow.
I care because it was so small when I found out. Like, it was too soon. It says almost one. This is interesting, right? Almost 1 in 10 OBs will be so devastated by a stillbirth that they will consider a career change. Because also we don't talk about that, right?
Yeah.
The doctors. Yeah. That have to do this.
It's emotional.
Yeah. So it's just, we wanted to bring awareness to this. It's something obviously that Maritza has experienced personally, and I have experienced it secondhand with someone that I love. We will put resources.
Yeah, and it's definitely important, right, to do your prenatal appointments and vitamins. And like they say, right, if you were doing something before you were pregnant, you can continue to do it while you're pregnant, right? So that's like the myth when they tell you, like, stop. Unless a doctor medically tells you, like, I don't want you doing this, you're safe. You know what I mean? It's like, so for me, when they were trying to blame me for coaching, not true, because with my first daughter,
you can still lift weights.
Well, yeah, my first daughter, I literally coached all the way through my pregnancy. And like, even her being born, she was in a little pouch at a game. Like, so that's why I knew, for me, like, I was able to coach still. So that's why when it came at me that way, I was like, no, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Like, I was like, no, not right. And then my second pregnancy, I worked out the entire pregnancy. Like, I was teaching spin classes and working out. So that's where I knew, I'm like, I knew it's not, you can't blame me. Like, you know, so for those people that feel like, oh, it's my fault, please take that thought out of your mind. It is not your fault. It is something medically that happened. And there really are no answers, right?
Not the smaller, you know, even a stillbirth, there, I don't think there's much answers. You know, so we'll include resources and foundations that are researching this, you know, because also, you know, infants that do come home and, you know, unfortunately do not make it past a certain, you know, SIDS is common.
Yes.
It's not as common, I'm sorry, but it can happen. You know, and it's nothing, there's no research on that, you know, like not enough, you know, why does this happen? It just,
listen, I do believe, right, wholeheartedly, I know people hate hearing this, like, oh, is this God's plan, right? But for me, for my story, I will say that God does have a purpose. You know, I believe that that moment in my life just opened up my eyes a little bit. It helped also, like, my relationship in the sense that I was able to tell him, like, hey, you failed me here.
Yeah.
You know, which helped us kind of grow longer down the road. And I always say it, I'm like, I have a little nugget up there, you know, and we, every once in a while, we kind of look at our older daughter and I'm like, man, like, you know, she's about to turn 9, we would have a kid that's about to turn 11.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like interesting. Like, it's not like you forget. Does that make sense? You know? But I do say that it happens. It's tough. It's not that God puts it in your life, but sometimes it does have a purpose. And that's like an individual thing for you to figure out the purpose behind it.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, find your purpose. We're gonna do the resources.
Yeah.
And there's hashtags to bring awareness.
And if anybody, you know, if you're willing to share your stories with us, like, please, like, you know, I think it's something that's not talked about. I think we should be talking to our children, like our girls when they're older, obviously not like, you know, now. But like, you know, as they become women and they're on their own in their adulthood life, you know, because we don't know the future. We don't know if our kids are going to face this and we have to console them. So it's good that we're educated on it. And, you know, my story, I don't know, like maybe it's going to help somebody else, you know, because it's got purpose with the pain, you know?
And if you had a name for the baby already, you were further along, write their name. Say their name. Let's say their name.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's remember them.
That's right.
Because they were... even if they didn't live, you know, like our
full life.
Yeah. Or even longer, you know, say their name.
Yeah.
They were important piece of your life.
Yeah.
And let's honor them and bring awareness to this.
Yeah. And then, you know, I know a couple people too that I'm gonna reach out to see if they care to like do little blurbs, maybe like a message for us so we could share on our social media.
Yeah, and we can do it
anonymously. Yep. Just to get the word out there and to kind of help one another cope and heal. So
yeah, absolutely.
You know.
So I guess that we'll wrap up this episode as well. We'll leave it there. You know, let's honor these kids.
Yes.
Let's
say their names.
Say their names, guys. Thank you again for being on and listening to us again.
Thank you guys.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye. Guys.